Hello and welcome to another video review. This is Red Orchestra, Ostfront for PC. This is actually a mod turned full retail release by Tripwire Interactive. It was originally a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, and it got massive amounts of acclaim, won the Make Something Unreal contest in the year they submitted it, and they eventually got a full license for the Unreal Engine and released it as a standalone game, which is what you have here. Red Orchestra Ostfront 41 to 45 is the full title. It is a PC exclusive, and it is available on Steam. I will have a link in the video description box if you do want to get this. But this is an interesting first-person shooter because it does things that really no other first-person shooter tried to do before. Nothing that was really noteworthy anyway. I mean, you had games like, say, Operation Flashpoint, which were incredibly realistic, but they weren't quite like this. I mean, Red Orchestra is realistic, yes, but it still maintains a semi-arcadey feel that makes it kind of a good bridge between the hardcore military simulator and the arcadey first-person shooter that we're used to today, like, say, Battlefield or Call of Duty. And so it makes it an interesting game to look at. Now that said, when you look at this game, you will notice the visuals are very dated. I mean, it does run on Unreal Engine 2. And at the time it was released, that wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it looked fine for the time. But it's a few years later now, and it certainly hasn't aged all that well. Environments in general look fine. The weapons look great. Animations are really nice for the weaponry and such. They look really realistic, really nice fluid animations that, let's say, work all the weapons actions and such. Third-person animations are when a character dies, they instantly turn into a ragdoll and just kind of slump over. Even if they get hit with an explosive, which you'd expect to maybe throw them a little bit, but no, they just literally just drop. And so it's kind of unsettling, I guess. But that said, in general, the visuals look fine. The textures are decent res. They don't look great by any means, but they're certainly not horrendous. Modeling in general is fairly well done, but it does kind of reek of a previous generation of polygonal 3D. Now the sound design is kind of hit or miss. Music is very limited. There's basically 2 or 3 tunes. At least it sounds like that. I know there are probably more, but it sounds like there are only 2 or 3 specific bits of music that they continuously loop through the game. And so it's nothing special. I mean, it's generic, kind of World War II-y music that's kind of grim, but at the same time kind of full of glory and such. The theme song is actually really nice, the one that plays at the main menu. It's really atmospheric, and that's really nice. The sound effects themselves, all the gunfire sounds fantastic. Really nice and forceful. It's none of those little pea shooter crap you have from, say, Call of Duty Black Ops. All of the weapons, every single weapon in this game actually sounds beefy. It sounds powerful. And that's probably because all of them are powerful. They are beefy. It's not like an arcadey game where all of your weapons take quite a while to bring somebody down. This actually is going for that realistic route. And so when you hear like the actions working for your weapons, like say the bolt actions, that actually does sound very realistic. It does sound very nice. The atmospheric sound effects, the stuff that it plays just in the environment around you, sounds great as well. It really gives you that feel for just warfare in general. Voice acting is it is done in the actual languages of the 2 factions, which is the Germans and the Russians. So the Russians will speak Russian, the Germans will speak German. And it's pretty accurate German. It's pretty accurate Russian, I would assume, as well, but I'm not exactly sure on that because I don't speak Russian. But it does kind of sound right, and it's nice to have that realistic approach to it, to where, while you do have subtitles whenever somebody says something, it is nice to be able to sit there and have this immersion factor of the realistic voice acting. Now, since this is a multiplayer game, it's really the gameplay that matters more than the story. I mean, the story is basically, it's World War II on the Eastern Front of the European theater. That's about it. Russians are fighting Germans. That's about as basic as you need to get. And so you pick a side, either the Axis or the Allies, depending on what you feel like doing, I guess, as well as the auto-assign if you got that going for you. And you just compete over objectives on the given maps. Say you want to capture a certain point. It's sort of like the conquest mode in Battlefield to some degree, but they have a lot more points on the map for you to capture in most cases, and it can get pretty hectic. I mean, this does kind of feel more like Battlefield than, say, something like Call of Duty, because you have vehicles, because you have these large-scale maps, because you have up to 32 players. Theoretically, you can get 64. I don't recommend it, but you can get 64, I guess, if you have the right map and a good enough server. I've played with 32, and it's gotten pretty dang hectic, so it's been pretty interesting to play this online, because you see a lot of variety in the maps. You see a lot of variety in the gameplay and the tactical possibilities. This is a tactical first-person shooter. And I say tactical because despite you not having a squad to command around, I mean, you can if you're a squad leader, I suppose, even though you're not really commanding anybody. Despite you not having a squad, it is a more slow-paced, methodical first-person shooter than something like Call of Duty, where you're just running around guns blazing. You really do have to think about what you're doing. You have to be very careful with your movements, because your team does have a limited number of reinforcements, and with each death, you basically remove some of those reinforcements. When the enemy's reinforcement counter hits 0, you've won, or if yours hits 0, the enemy has won. And this is accelerated by holding the great deal of control points, especially because when you get all of them, then you've basically won the game. I believe you can actually win by holding all the control points, but I'm not exactly 100% sure on that, so don't hold me to it. But it's interesting to play this game because it is class-based warfare. And each class, while it is very, very similar in the way you play it, like the normal riflemen with the bolt-action rifles play extremely similarly to the semi-auto riflemen, which basically are just the same thing, only with semi-automatic rifles. Like, those classes play very similarly. I mean, the guys with the SMGs and the, if you're the Germans, the MP44 assault rifle. If you're playing as those, and you're going to be a lot of close-range combat. But the way they've designed it, if you want to get into a vehicle, you have to be a specific vehicle class, like a tank commander. I mean, if you're not, then you can just drive like APCs and Jeeps and stuff, similar to Jeeps, I mean. But that's about it. If you want to get into a tank, which is an absurdly powerful machine, as it should be, you actually do have to be a specific tank class. So that kind of balances that out a little bit by making it not very easy to have tons of tanks moving around and just wiping the floor with each other. And there's, of course, anti-tank classes. The Panzerfaust in particular, it's basically one shot and the tank's done. So tanks are really well balanced in this game, which really surprised me. In most games that you find vehicles, the vehicles are absurdly overpowered because the infantry just cannot fight them. But in the case of Red Orchestra, it's decently balanced, unless you're the Russians, in which case your anti-tank rifle will do practically nothing. So you do have to be careful with that. There's no crosshair in this game either. The way they've done it, they've actually got a free aim system, where if you look at the video, you'll see that whenever I look around, my weapon will move all over the screen. What that means is that's the free aim system. That is where you don't have a crosshair in the middle of the screen. You're actually moving basically your entire torso whenever you look around. And so whatever you're looking at, you're not necessarily going to be aiming at it. That's what iron sights are for. You aim down your sights, you get very accurate, well-placed fire. Now, you have 3 different positions. You can be standing, crouching, or prone. Obviously, if you're prone, then you're going to be a lot more accurate than if you're standing. And your recoil is actually going to be a lot higher if you're standing, too. So you have to pay a lot of attention to how you're standing, how you're moving. Because if you want to try to sprint, then you can only do it with standing and crouching specifically. This is also one of the only games I know of where you can sprint while crouching, too. And so you have to be careful with your movements as well, because if you stick your head out for too long, you'll probably get picked off. And you have to be really careful with that. You have to be really careful as your team advances. You have to really do a lot of call-outs to work with your teammates in order to actually win the game. And so this is really a game for the people who enjoy that tactical, team-based atmosphere in their gaming, that really kind of competitive feel. Because it does take quite a bit of skill to actually play this game, too. You can't just jump into it and instantly be able to go like 40-0. No, it takes a long time to be able to do that. I mean, I've played this for quite a while now, and I still pretty much suck at it when I go online. Partially because of lag, but that's just me. And so you have an interesting game here. The only problem I have with it, a couple of problems. First off, it's a World War II game, and I'm kind of burnt out on those. That's just a personal thing. I can't really fault it for that. Second thing, it's kind of one-sided. There's not a lot of variety within the game itself. It's basically just capture the points, and that's it. There's no multiple game modes. There's no like team deathmatch or any of that. So it is very focused on the kind of realistic war, not really simulation, but war feel. And that makes it get a little bit tiresome. But that said, Red Orchestra Ostfront is a phenomenal game, especially considering it was originally a mod. And I did play the mod version, and it actually does feel very different from this. So, if you're looking for a good tactical shooter, if you're looking for something that will really challenge you, then definitely take a look at Red Orchestra. I give it a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching.